I want to welcome in Kelly Hubbell. Kelly is a mom of three and the founder of Sage Haus, a platform dedicated to helping busy parents reclaim their time and energy by building their village and outsourcing the mental load. Her mission is to ensure moms on any budget get the support they deserve so they can feel more present in everything they do, whether it's enjoying time with their families, growing their career, or pursuing personal passions. Kelly founded Sage Haus to share her journey of creating a reliable support system, offering practical advice for fellow moms who want to find a more equitable division of labor and move beyond the outdated do-it-all narrative. Through actionable solutions and establishing repeatable home systems, Kelly empowers parents to go from chaos to control, helping them build a village that includes the right family assistant, house manager, or meal prep chef. Kelly, thank you so much. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you. If you're listening and you're kind of like, Paige, you have a podcast about creativity and business. Tell me why, like, you want to know why we're doing a podcast about motherhood. It's because it all folds together for me and for all of us. I used to host masterminds where I would support creatives in business. And of course, creatives in business include mothers who are running a business and running a household and everything else. And I always felt like whenever the moms in my mastermind would ask questions about time management or how do I be a mom and a business owner, I always felt like I was falling short of the answer. So on the back end, I was trying to connect moms with moms who could get them some answers. But that's kind of what I'm excited about today is getting to ask you about running a business and being a mom and doing all of the things, literally all of the things, while also building your own dream. That is such an important part of it. And also, being a parent, being a mom is in itself an act of creation and an act of creativity daily. It is a highly, highly creative skill. So I'm excited to get into all of it. Kelly, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your story and what led you to start Sage Haus.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can get into my story, but I'll first comment on one thing that you just said, which is I think a question moms get a lot of the time, or I'm picturing either myself or any other mom walking through the grocery store with one, two, or three kids hanging off the grocery cart, and people say, "Wow, how do you do it all?" And I am very proud to say now that when someone asks me, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe how do you do it all?" I say, I don't do it all. And the only way I can do anything is because I have a literal team behind me and a village that I have handpicked and built around me and my family to be able to even get close to quote doing it all. So I'll say that first of all. And yes, I'm happy to share a little bit about my story. I think really my story starts in outsourcing specifically. I say outsourcing. When I say outsourcing, I sort of mean like offloading things, whether it's mental labor, physical labor, just doing things. Offloading them and taking them off of my plate really started with after the birth of my son. We now have three kids, but I started to sort of feel that pain, if you will, of not being able to, super mom it and do it all after he was born, because I, up until that point, really enjoyed meal prepping and cooking food and spending Sunday like wandering through the farmer's market and then going to the grocery store and getting all these ingredients I needed to make food. And sure enough, I had a baby and realized that as a working mom, I had so few hours left in the days, in the weekends, and I really wanted to spend that time as a family. And what that meant for me was I could not spend 5 hours on a Sunday afternoon doing this meal prep anymore, or at least I didn't want to. It was no longer like the top priority. So I thought to myself, what if I could hire someone? It didn't need to be like a Michelin star chef. Like I just need somebody who can do what I do, which is like prep some greens and some veggies and some protein so that I have food that's in my fridge and ready to eat during, in between Zoom calls during the week, because I was working remotely at the time. And sure enough, we found a woman who was a culinary student who jumped at the opportunity to cook in our kitchen on Sunday afternoons and prep food for us for the week. And that was sort of like the very entry into offloading, and then fast forward to where I am today, which is I've got a 5-year-old, 3-year-old, and 1-year-old. We have a house manager who helps me run our home 20 hours a week. We've got a meal prep chef who drops off a week's worth of food for us on Mondays, and we have cleaners who come and help me. So that's sort of like my story. I'm happy to share a little bit more, but as it relates to Sage House now, once I set up this support system and the literal procedural home systems within my home to be able to delegate to my village that I just described, I started getting calls from other friends and moms in my network who were interested in doing the same. And that's how Sage House started. That's how my business started, which is I felt like I created and found a solution that worked for my family. And then I now am helping other families implement that same solution in their home. So I go as far as to recruit a house manager or family assistant for a family now, because people really want help to find the right person.
Mm-hmm.
And I run small group cohorts to help moms implement better home systems. And I teach them how to find the right support in their homes. So that's the story behind me and Sage House.
That's incredible. And okay, so you mentioned in your messaging, you mentioned also being able to do this on a budget, because this is highly valuable village that you're building. How do you do that if you are operating on a budget?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, because I think the elephant in the room, certainly when I bring up this topic of having more hired support in my home, is certainly, who is this rich white lady telling me that I should outsource it, right? And that is actually one of the reasons behind Sage House, which is me feeling really frustrated that all I felt like I kept hearing from moms who were busy but seemingly doing it all is say, "Oh, I outsourced that. Oh, I outsourced that. You should just outsource it." I was like, what do they mean? Like, how did they find that person? What does that person do for them? How much do they pay them? Like, is this even accessible to me? So I completely understand like the feeling and validate it, absolutely. And I also won't pretend that it's not absolutely I'm completely fortunate to be able to do this. My husband and I both decided we wanted to be working parents, and as as a result, use some of the budget that we have from both working toward helping us run and manage our home. But I will say that meal prep chef I just described to you, we were living in a 2-bedroom apartment on one income. My husband had just started a business. He hadn't taken a paycheck yet. And I felt so compelled to invest in that resource for my family, because that's exactly what it is. It's an investment in your time. And so I think there's this conversation around the value of your time. So I think it's important for us to really understand like how valuable is our time? What do we want to spend our time doing? And then getting really creative. So like I said, like I didn't hire some like personal chef. I hired someone on an hourly basis that fit into my budget for, I think it was $100 a week.
Oh, wow.
That I took from other parts of my budget and I just moved it over there. And so I think there's ways to be creative. I think in terms of like building your village or hiring a mother's helper or a family assistant, like there are so many people out there. There are students, there are entrepreneurs, and people who really want like a side hustle. They want a part-time job. They enjoy helping families. So I really don't think you have to break the budget. You can get help for 5 hours a week or 10 hours a week. So yeah, I'm absolutely glad you said that and brought that up, because one of my goals is to normalize this and let everybody know that it's way more affordable, approachable, attainable than they might think. And it's not just for like the Kardashians of the world. Absolutely. This is not just like a celebrity thing to find, better support systems in your home.
Well, and I think about this a lot because the phrase "it takes a village" has always been around, because it's always been so true. It takes a village. But with modern parenting, it seems like modern parenting is more, it feels like that village is less gainable. I don't know what the right word is. It feels like it's harder to assemble that village. Like, what is it like to be in modern parenting and having to go figure out where your village is, who your village is. Can you talk to us a little bit about what is that like? That sounds very, very stressful.
Absolutely. Well, our village today has completely changed and transformed to what it was, 30 or 50 or 100 years ago, right? So think about the way that we're living today. Like you mentioned, it's such a more modern lifestyle. Our life is really full. And, we both parents are typically working like 80% or something of most couples are dual income these days, or 80% of women now are working. Um, and it is different than a lot of people are living farther away from family members. So I think it's some statistic like 70% of families live an hour or more away from their extended family. And that's really who we were leaning on, or like our parents or their parents were leaning on for a lot of help, as it, childcare help, pet care help, like just helping us take care of ourselves. And because we now sort of live in this more modern world where we move because of the job or because we simply want to live somewhere else and we're farther away from family and support systems, we have to create and develop and find our own support systems, aka our village. So it
Mhm.
really, the onus is, and I mean, I would be remiss to if I didn't mention that, like, our country is simply lack of support systems for parents.
Mhm.
Um, and so I would say that it's on us to own finding and creating and building a village around us and our modern life. And I think I will say like, you know, my entire sort of hypothesis is even if you're lucky enough to have a partner. By the way, there are so many single parents out there who don't have a partner, and
Mhm.
that is a whole other like challenge. But even if you have, two very highly effective, highly educated, super parents
Mhm.
in a relationship, there still just aren't enough hours in the day to get everything done. So like my thing is I, you know, it's not fathomable for two people to get it all done. They need more help.
Mm. And this is something that the Surgeon General himself, the US Surgeon General, recently warned about. He basically wrote an op-ed and said, parenting these days is too stressful. We
Hmm.
have made it to be too much of a demand on parents. It's not realistic and it's impacting the health of parents. And it, that is so, I can't even put words to my feeling is kind of, what have we done? What have we how why have we built the world in a way that makes it so hard to be a parent today? What do you think? What do you think about the Surgeon General's statement?
Yeah, well, I think my first thought when I read that was finally. I'm like, finally, somebody validated us and that we're not just crazy. Like parents, we're not just feeling this like false sense of, complete burnout and anxiety and depression and all of these things that we're feeling, because it's nice to know that we are validated. It's nice to know that, we're not sort of in it alone. So I think that's my first thought. My second thought, though, is like, yeah, I think, we have a lot of work to do as it relates to the expectations being put on parents today. And we have a lot of work to do as it relates to the support systems that we have in place in our immediate communities, in our states, and in our country to better support parents. I mean, the fact that, my kid goes to school from 8 to 2 every day, but my working hours are expected to be 8 to 5 is just not,
Yeah.
it doesn't work. And so I think we have a lot of work to do. But I think all that being said, I love all of the points that were brought to light in that op-ed. I think what I particularly appreciated was that there were solutions proposed. And one of those solutions is certainly getting the support that we need
Mhm.
as parents in these different seasons of our life. Like I think there are a lot of seasons of sort of like childhood when you think about like babies and toddlers. I mean, there's so much physical labor. Whereas I work with clients and parents who have kids that are like adolescent and teenage or preteens and teenagers, and like their needs are so different. Like it's not as like physical because, you're not like wrangling kids for bath time, but what you are doing is you actually need more capacity for emotional sort of like conversations and like mentally stimulating real adult conversations with your kids. And so I feel like all of that to say, we need more capacity physically, emotionally, and more bandwidth, both time and energy to be able to do that. And what I'm basically here to say and coach parents is like, start taking things off your plate so that you can get your headspace back, get your brain space back, and be in a more grounded place no matter what you're doing. Like just be in a more present place, whether it's being with your family, being with your partner, in your job. Being more present is like what I think most of us sort of, where we want to be is just more present. And so I think really trying to say, okay, thanks so much, Surgeon General, for this problem, but like, how do we focus on solutions? And that's like that's what I'm really like laser focused on with Sage House.
Ooh, okay, let's get into solutions. What's the first thing you recommend for people when you're talking about taking things off your plate? What are some things that you immediately go like, take this off your plate? Let this go, or we move this away. How do you recommend to parents to start evaluating the priorities that stay on the plate and evaluating the priorities that can come off the plate?
Yeah, I love that you brought this up. So that's exactly what I do with my small group cohort in week 1. So it's a 6-week cohort. And week 1, we do what I call making the invisible visible. So, we talk a lot about in sort of the parenting world, like invisible labor and what is the mental load and what is the second shift, if you will, which is like all the stuff that happens, after the workday. What are you doing to keep your home running, right? And that is absolutely the first step of what I call like the Sage House method, which is taking inventory and like auditing. What are all of the things you're doing today?
Mm-hmm.
How would you prioritize them? How do you assign a time to them? First of all, like what's taking you the most time? And then how do you assign almost like a rating of joy that it brings you? Like, do you really enjoy folding laundry, or is that kind of like lower on the list? Like, do you like watering your plants, or could you let somebody else do it? And then as you start to sort of like make this massive list, which by the way, I've done all the work for, the parents who join my cohort. Anyone can for free go onto my website, and there's this free quiz. And by taking this 8-question quiz on my website, it creates a dashboard that shows how many hours you're spending managing your household on a weekly, yearly basis. And then it also comes up with this big, huge list of all of the things that are probably happening in your home based on your answers to this quiz. Anyway, so I've done all the hard work and heavy lifting there, but like going through that list, like, basically stack ranking these things. And then it's like from there, once you've evaluated what you need help with, then it's like, okay, how do these top 5 or 10 things fit into my budget? And then how do I now sort of create a role around those things that I need more help with?
Wow. And so okay, I want to talk a little bit about the emotional component of that too. Because I would imagine like going through the whole process is one thing, but then actually giving yourself permission or feeling like there's an ability to let something go or take something off your plate. Like maybe something needs to come off your plate, but it just feels really hard to do. What's kind of like the emotional component behind all of this that is there more emotional support that needs to happen too? Where does that conversation come in? Things like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I often talk about the barriers to why busy moms, busy parents aren't just jumping on, getting more support in their home. And one of those barriers that I've absolutely identified, aside from the financial barrier, we talked about that one already, is this sort of two parts. One is, what are people going to think of me? So I think we have this sort of cultural norm where moms want to be perceived as a super mom. They want people to think that they are doing it all and like running the bake sale, but also working full time and like, whatever, being this super mom. So I think part of it is like, oh, what if somebody finds out that I have help? Okay, so this is something we need to change, because that is not sustainable for anybody. And like, I think all moms, we just all need to come out and say, that's crazy. Let's stop comparing each other. Let's stop the comparison culture and stigmatizing this. Number two is like the guilt around, if I can do it, then I should be doing it. So I think a lot of moms, because we saw our moms and their moms, like what was modeled for us was the mom who was doing it all. And I can tell you firsthand, my mom did it all. And I saw that. And so I defaulted to that when I became a mom. And so I think that's another aspect of this, which is we're living in a different time. We need to sort of like let go of that expectation that was set for us by someone else. And then I also think that like there's an aspect of, you brought up like sort of emotional and like the control of it all. Like I talked to a lot of moms who were like, well, I just can't imagine delegating that task, because what if someone doesn't do it my way? What if they do it a different way and I want it done my way? And it's just so, I mean, when I have moms like really take a deep breath and step back, I'm like, are you sure that someone else can't wash your jeans on cold inside out? Like, it's like somebody absolutely can do that for you. I think you need to like just learn to let that go. And this is the like creating systems around like, how do you run your house? What do you like? Let's get really clear about communicating your needs, communicating what you want and how you want things done. Because the fact is like, teaching someone how you want it done, you do once. And then, hundreds of times after that, it gets done, versus you holding on to this like false sense of, oh, if I don't do it right, then it won't get done. And I think the last thing I'll say about that is, we are really good, women, people in general are really good about like delegating in work and in business. But when it comes to home, like, why are we not running our home like a business? It doesn't make any sense. Like, can we just take some of those skills and principles that we've learned to delegate and communicate and bring them into our home? Because I think we'd all be a lot better off.
Okay, so wait, so this is where I have a question is, so we're trying to be the super mom, and also, do you feel like the message from society is be a super mom? You have like,
Totally.
right? Like you have to be a super mom, and it's like, what, like that alone, like the idea that like, if you're not a super mom, if you're not doing all of the things, where's the value? I just feel like the message from it's part of it's like, we have to be the super mom. Maybe that comes partly from inside of us, but also like, I feel like it's coming from outside. Like the call is coming from outside the house. It's society being like, you have to do it. And that is too much. It just sounds like too fucking much.
It totally is. Like, I absolutely agree with you. I think especially, so my generation, like millennial and Gen Z generation, we've been growing up in a society, in a culture that's been telling us, well, you can have it all, you can do it all, you can have a career and a family and this and that. And like, absolutely you can, but like, something has to give, because guess what? Those same models and those same sort of like societal expectations aren't being put on men. And until that changes, we have to get more realistic about this. And you know what I will say is, since launching Sage House even a year ago, I have started to see a huge cultural shift, and I'm feeling like we're almost like, I'm not saying we're there, but I'm saying like we're starting to climb this mountain where we're banding together. And I'm actively seeing more moms and women who are putting their foot down, and they're saying, nope, not anymore. I'm not going to pretend to be a super mom. I'm not going to compare myself to that other mom. Like, we need to, as a group, come together and say, not anymore. We live a different world, and let's change the narrative going forward for our own children.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
So I feel like there's hope, I guess is what I'm saying.
I think there's hope too. And I want to underline that for everyone, for every mom listening, like you deserve so much in the world, and you deserve support, and you deserve to, feel excited about how you structure everything. You just deserve everything. And so I just want to underline that for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one thing I will piggyback on your mention that moms deserve that.
Mhm.
I think, as a mom, many moms, I haven't met one that doesn't agree with this statement, that we lose a little bit of our identity when we become a mom, like our own. So when you start taking care of other people, you start to lose, it's very natural that you start to lose like who you are and what you want and what are your own wants and desires and identity, and like what makes you who you are and what lights you up and what fills your bucket.
Mhm.
And so I think like making room and space for that, and really reclaiming your identity as a mom, has been a huge part of this like sort of change for me.
Mm.
And delegating, getting more help, and like really what that opens you up for is like more I self identity and like exploration, like, okay, yes, I'm a mom now, but I'm also a person. So,
Mhm.
and I deserve to be a person, and I deserve to have interests and wants and hobbies. And so I totally agree with what you're saying.
Well, and that's so valuable to, it sounds like it's such a mind trip to experience that shift, to experience that, okay, who am I? What is going on? Like that sounds like it can be a big, gosh, it just sounds like it can be such a huge moment in your life, and having support in that moment sounds vital.
Yes.
And also that relates so deeply to like who you are as a person, and what your creativity is. And creativity, I really feel like is so different for every single person. Everybody to me is a creative, right? And however you structure your day, whatever you're bringing into the world, for some people that's data spreadsheets, for some people that is cooking a meal, for some people that is painting a painting. But whatever you're creating in the world, your relationship to that is so important. And so I'm really curious how your relationship to your own creativity as you became a mother and as you became a parent, and someone who runs a household, how did that shift as all these new things came into your life?
Oh man. I think that it shifted in a way, like it just really, it changed. I think that for me, I've never been, when I think of creativity, like I don't necessarily, first of all, like identify my own self with being like a creative person, but I think that I am creative in being a problem solver. And that's sort of like kind of along the lines of
Yes.
creating systems in
Mhm.
my home, and sort of like I am on the fly. I'm really good at sort of like finding the answer and figuring it out. And to me, that's sort of my own like creativity. And so I
Mhm.
think as a parent, um, you just flex those muscles so much. Like you're constantly like
Ah.
trying to de-escalate a tantrum or a fight or an emotional breakdown or something like that. And so I think that's probably been the biggest shift for me, is like just using up my creative capacity toward problems, like, you know, working on my feet and coming up with a game of freeze tag, like on the fly while my kids are standing in line somewhere, or
Mhm.
something, you know what I mean? Like you're
Yeah.
just, as a parent, you're just constantly like, okay, like, what am I going to do now?
Mhm.
I guess that's what I would say.
Problem solving is highly creative. It's incredibly highly creative. It takes resourcefulness. It takes imagination. It takes belief in yourself that you can solve the problem. Like that is a highly creative act. Um, so that to me, like, I think that's a great example of like parenting is creative. Parenting is creative, and it's creative in the actual act of parenting, but also like the way that you, um, give yourself permission to prioritize what needs to be prioritized in your own life. And the beauty of that, the permission of that, that to me is something that I keep coming back to again and again is our parents, our mothers giving themselves permission to prioritize as they really want to prioritize, right? Like I know you have to prioritize a specific number of things every day, people's schedules, getting to school, having conversations, things like that. But do you also get to prioritize the things that you want to do for yourself, whatever that looks like?
Yeah, yes. I think, do you want me to talk about me, like personally or in general?
Whichever you are excited about.
Yeah, I think, well, I guess I'll just say like, I have to like talk the talk and walk the walk myself because that's the only way that I feel like I can really make other people successful. But yeah, I think having like giving yourself the permission to do things for yourself again is so important. I mean, it's interesting. I was just quoted in an article on today.com a week ago about having a night to yourself as a parent throughout the week. And I think that that is, it's a funny concept because I think parents like are a lot, especially moms, consider themselves sort of like sacrificial lambs in a way, and they're like these, but what I've been really, really dedicated to, and my husband and I have been doing is like we each get a night off from parenting every week. And like that is it's so good to recharge. It's so good to do something for ourselves. Like he'll go do a swim workout with friends and sit in the sauna and happy for him. I go out with a friend for dinner, or like tonight I'm going to get a massage, and that's like what I'm doing to sort of reset and find time and give myself permission to still like live my life, which has been really great. And then the other thing is, of course, we also prioritize our partnership. And one thing that we do every week, and that's part of what my house manager's duties is she watches our kids every Friday night so that we can go on a date every Friday night for like 3 hours and like just really spend uninterrupted time together. So yeah, I think it's really, really important to find the time and be present in those moments instead of running through your to-do list again. In how you want to be like spending your time, your precious time. Like we don't have, we don't have that much time here on this earth. And so you've got to like figure out really, wow, how do I want to spend this?
That is a beautiful system. I want to ask you about asking for help. How do you approach conversations as a parent where you need to say to other people, whether it's your partner or your family or your friends, maybe your friends with kids or maybe your friends without kids? How do you approach a conversation where you say like, hey, I need help. I need help here. Can you do XYZ? Can you support me in this way? How do you think about that? How do you think about that in your mind? How do you think about that as you approach it?
Yeah, I think asking for help is really hard.
Mhm.
I think again, this goes back to the whole like stigma, like what is someone going to think of me if I ask for help? Are they going to think less of me? Are they going to think I don't have enough capacity or bandwidth or whatever? And I think that's like the whole thing I am trying to change is like this narrative around asking for help. I think it starts with asking for help, asking your spouse for help and like making sure that you are working as a team around like equitability in your home and division of labor in your home and like really having communication around that. I think one thing that I talk to clients about all the time is a lot of times your partner can't your partner can't read your mind. They don't know that you might be taking on so much mental load or physical load for your family, and while you're over here carrying around a bunch of resentment,
Mm.
your partner, they also don't want that for you, by the way. Like most partners, I would say, don't want you to be anxious and resentful and all those things. And so I think like it starts with asking your spouse for help, asking to get on the same page and communicate and have like a weekly meeting if that's what it takes. I think it's asking friends like I have a lot of moms in my community who do like date night swaps where like, hey, we'll watch your kids for a night and you go out and vice versa. So I think it's like just being flexible and being open. And then finally, I think like getting to a place where you're like, we need consistent help. And it's outside of childcare. Like, yeah, sure, we have childcare, but like we need help with some other stuff.
Mhm.
And it's okay to ask for help and to go and find it and figure out like, where can I find help in my community? I have a whole, like free guide on my website that is it's called Where to Find Your Village, and they're like the top 6 places that I typically recommend for people to go if they want to find and hire their village.
Oh, I love that. And I'll speak a little bit to like, if you're listening and you don't have kids, but you're like, I want to help. I want to be supportive of my friends who do have kids. How do I do this? I am still learning, but what I've started doing recently is, well, what I've always done is like, I'm just as flexible as possible with my own time, because I know that my friends who have kids have a bajillion schedules to coordinate. And so finding time to hang out can be something that needs to be flexible or fluid. So I like to be highly flexible, and I've just started throwing out ideas instead of saying, how can I help? I like to just say, can I do this for you? Or can I do that for you? And sometimes the answer is like, that's actually not what I need, but I do need this. And that's great too. So if you're like, how do I support my mom friends? I don't have kids, so I don't know a ton about this. Throw out ideas, be specific, be supportive, text the hot gossip because your friends still want the hot gossip,
Mm-hmm.
and be as flexible as possible. And then Kelly, is there anything that you would add to that?
I would just say check on each other.
Mhm.
I think I I think you can get into, even in your friend circle, anyone, I'm talking when I say you, anybody who's listening to this, like even your friend circle, the most together, and I'm putting air quotes, like even the one that looks like has their shit most together and they are charismatic and they are fun or they're outgoing or they're extroverted or they, whatever,
Mhm.
your friend that's like that and you think doesn't need to be checked on, like you're wrong.
Mm.
They do need to be checked on. So I would just say, like, one thing I really, really try to do, especially in the postpartum phase, is just check on your friends. Like, even if their mother-in-law lives down the street and is helping them with the baby, check
Mhm.
on them. Like,
Mhm.
just check on each other. And then again, I like what you said, which is, just instead of asking if they need help, it's just offering, this is what I'm doing for you today.
Mhm.
Like, I am dropping off a crock pot full of chili on your front porch at 5 p.m. for you tomorrow. So you don't have to do dinner. Like, don't
Mhm.
ask them, just say, tell them, like, this is what I'm doing for you. And, I think that goes a long way because I think we're for some reason, I don't know how this happened, but we're like too caught up in like the politeness of things. And
Mhm.
it to me, it just feels like it's like, why can't we just be there for each other and we don't have to ask permission to do that? We just need to show up.
That is so important. That is something that I really did not learn until more recently. And I wish I had understood this more when I was in my 20s and 30s and my friends were just starting to have kids and having their families. I was always so worried about bugging people. I was always like, they must be so busy. I don't want to bug them. I'll wait until, things get more like steadier, evens out for everybody. But I didn't understand that I wouldn't have been bugging them. I would have been, even like, if my text is too much in that moment, they're just gonna continue about their day and it's gonna be fine, and then I can try again later, and it doesn't have to
Mm-hmm.
mean anything, right? I didn't learn until later that, like, send the text message, check in, say hi, just do something, bring something. And I wish I had known that sooner. I wish I had known that I wasn't going to be bugging people or interrupting anything, that it was ultimately just going to be helpful, or at the very least, like, just showing an act of love. It
Mm-hmm.
can just be showing an act of love. Before we go, I want to ask my favorite question, which is my sliding doors question. But before we do that, tell everybody how they can find out more information about you and what you do and connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say you can find me on Instagram. My handle is at my Sage House. House is spelled Haus. And I'm also on LinkedIn, Kelly Hubbell. So that's kind of where I hang out. One of those two places. I love getting messages and DMs. So reach out to me if you want me to find you a house manager. Reach out to me if you want to join my cohort of, small group of working parents. And I've also got a digital course, like for those who just want the 1 hour, how do I hire a house manager? I need one tomorrow. They can take my 1 hour course on my website. Again, I've got a ton of like freebies, downloads, where to find my village, how to talk to your partner about outsourcing, that free quiz I talked about and list are all on my website. So I think that's, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think that's pretty much where you can find me.
Awesome. All of those links are going to be in the show notes. So go down there and get to clicking. And so my favorite question is always my sliding doors question. And if you are a new listener, Sliding Doors is a movie that came out in the late 90s with Gwyneth Paltrow. And it's about her life and how it takes a turn with one small thing, right? She tries to go home early. She makes the train. She gets home to find her boyfriend cheating on her, changes her life. And then we reverse course and we see what would happen if she missed the train, if she did not get home early, if she did not catch her boyfriend. And we see both of versions of her life play out. And that movie is always stuck in my head with the idea that something so small can have such a huge impact on your life. So that is my question is, what is one small thing that has happened that maybe seemed insignificant, but created a huge ripple effect in your life?
Yeah, I think this is really tough for me because I feel like there were a lot of very important, critical moments like this in my life.
Mhm.
I think one of them is like making the choice to go to college, like getting a full scholarship to college and taking it. I think one of them is like changing my career from accounting into sales because that provided like a lot of stability for me and growth. One of them could be like meeting my husband and where I am today. But like I this is gonna sound really cheesy, but maybe you just caught me on a day where I sort of feel like I'm a little bit in my sliding doors moment right now, like in
Ooh.
my just with Sage House. Like so the moment I left my corporate job in May,
Mhm.
I I knew and I was terrified because it was a huge risk. And I was like, how am I going to figure out how to sort of turn this like passion for helping families and getting them the support they need into a business that will support me and my family? But like, how will I really make this happen? And is it going to work? And, it's really scary. And I really felt like that was my sliding door moment. So I feel like I'm there now, like leaving my corporate job and believing in myself and taking this huge leap
Mhm.
um has been so fulfilling so far, and I'm just so excited about what's to come because I feel like there's a ton of opportunity. To my knowledge, there aren't in we don't have enough support today. Parents need more support. I'm here to help them find it. And I just feel like I'm really meeting a need
Mhm.
and feeling, and also, I love helping busy moms and busy parents and helping them sort of figure it out. So
That's incredible. And congratulations. That is such a major thing. And I want to highlight a little bit the way that you're kind of talking about that transition because so much of decisions like that feel so unknowable. Will this work out? Will this be the thing that I'm hoping it'll be in the world? And I want to highlight that because I think that is one such an incredible move and something that is very inspirational, I think. And I want people to hear what's possible, even when sometimes you're not sure what that's going to look like at the end of the day. It's very, very doable. So congratulations. I think that's amazing.
thank you.
Kelly, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate your time and your expertise.
Yes, thanks for having me. This has been so much fun.